What does Rumi do with his nothingness? Because without Shams, he is nothing. What does Rumi do with having no purpose, no ambition, having no soul? How do you express your anguish? You write 700 poems dedicated to your teacher. If I can't have him physically, I will have him imaginatively. I will have him spiritually. I'm not going to worship Allah. I'm going to worship my teacher. Allah didn't give me a soul. Shams did. He read the Quran inside and out. He knew everything by heart. He knew the best philosophers of the time. And yet none of them were able to give Rumi his soul. This old man was able to. God does not create us. Teachers do. God gives us the earth, our physical life. Teachers give you our soul. Once he was done with writing poems for his teacher, something very, very interesting happens. Now remember all the while, remember the saying, the Gospel of Luke, that look at the birds, they don't work, they don't save, and yet not one goes starving. And that's what happens when you fall in love, when you have faith and trust, that you're guided by something, you have no fear. And that's how Rumi was. And once he was done with Kulliyat Shams, poems dedicated to his teacher, he begins this other work, Masnavi. How is it that first you follow the letter of the law, you're content, a stranger walks into your life, destroys all the letter that lives inside you, replaces all of them with the spirit, you're burning from within, and whatever fire lives or flame lives inside you gives birth to poetry. And you know what happens when you write? You write in solitude. بشنو از نی چون حکایت می کند و از جدایی ها شکایت می کند که از نیستان تا مرا ببریدند در نفیرم مرد و زن نالیدند سینه خواهم شرح شهر از فراق تا بگویم شرح درد اشتیاق من به هر جمعیتی نالان شدم جفت خوشحالان و بدحالان شدم هر کسی از زن خود شد یار من و از درون من نجست اسرار من آتش است این بانگ نای و نیست باد هر که این آتش ندارد نیست باد. It's a few lines, so let me just very quickly translate them for you. Hear from this reed flute as it wants to tell you a story. Reed flutes are interesting. When they grow, their interior is solid. As they mature, their interior becomes hollow. And then someone cuts them from the reed bed and then takes them to their garage, drills some holes, and then breathes air into them. And all of a sudden, the sound comes out. Vishnu az nechun hekayat mikonad. Listen to this air that's coming out of this reed flute. There is a beautiful, sad story in it. What's the story? As judai ha shikayat mikonad. That this reed flute used to belong to a community of reeds, but at some point someone went to this place with an axe or a special knife and cut this reed and brought it to his garage and made it into something that it never was. The reed wanted to be with other reeds, but it got expelled. It's really our story and our expulsion from the Garden of Eden, or whatever that makes life worth living. That every single one of us have this space inside us that's hollow, that's empty, that's made of absolute nothingness. So when sometimes you wake up and you're in a sorrowful mood, when you're sad, when you're depressed, when you feel lonely, when you feel poor, even though your life is quite rich on the outside, what your poverty is really is because something about you says, I was cut from a community. I don't know what this community is. I don't know where this community is. All I know is that I am sad and I feel lonely and I feel alone and I feel alienated and I have no idea why. And what the reed flute is saying is every human being that you see out there, whatever it is that they're pursuing because they want to go back home. But because they don't know what back home is and where it is, they have no choice but to assume that it's the boyfriend, it's the girlfriend, it's the movies, it's the degrees, it's justice. It's none of those things. You do everything because of the hollowness, of the emptiness, of the nothingness that lives inside you. And you have no choice but to fill it with some goddamn thing out there. Sine khaham sharh sharh as faragh. This reed flute, whenever you wake up and you have this unique sorrow inside you, you are this reed flute. And what is it that you want to do? You want to express your sadness. It's not because of your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your poverty on the outside. Something about your interior nags on you, tags on you, says, what is wrong with you? and you want to express it. And whenever this nothingness comes to the surface, your heart is not just broken, it's shattered into 1,000 pieces. And this is what the reed flute's message is. That when you hear the sound of this reed flute, you need to understand, it doesn't make this noise for you to sing, to dance, to be reflective. It's not about that. Reed flute is crying because the reed flute says, I was cut off from my community, from my world. My heart is shattered into 1,001 pieces. Is your heart shattered enough to understand my laments, my cries? So for those of you who find yourself broken for any reason, do not speak to people who are not broken. They will not understand you. They will make you feel more crappy. Find people who are broken. They put themselves back together, but they have never forgotten their own brokenness and how it feels to be broken. Hang out with the right people, those who have been broken by life, and understand the anatomy of the brokenness. Everyone assume that they know what I'm crying about, what my message is, what I have lost, what I'm going through. But they only assume. Never once did anyone go to the reed bed, see how they cut us, how they force us into an environment that doesn't belong to us, how they make us into something that we are not. To know who you are and to know what you are, and then realize you're in the wrong space. And you can't forget the fact that you're in the wrong space, and it shatters your interior. So when you read Rumi, remember, the reed flute is about himself, about his gains, about his losses, about the fact that he wants to go home and be home, but he doesn't know where home is. And that's the story of the human condition.